Howdy folks, Stuart, the Human Tornado, coming to you from Nashville, Tennessee in the F-Bomb Garage with the number 2 video on my YouTube channel. I thought we'd get started by talking about motorcycles in general. How I started riding them, how I started collecting them, how I started racing them, and then the organization that I choose to race with. So like everybody, a couple of the neighbor kids had mini bikes. We used to run them through the woods when the parents weren't around, doing things that we really probably shouldn't be doing at the time. I wasn't allowed to have a mini bike or a motorcycle, which is very strange considering what I learned later in life from my dad. Turns out in 1960, when he got out of the Army, him and a buddy, Henry Rollins, real name, got the suits to prove it, bought Triumph motorcycles and rode them from Alabama to California and back. After that, my dad never got on a motorcycle again, never talked about being on a motorcycle again, didn't know if he had a bad experience, don't know, just maybe it wasn't his thing. Didn't find out till about 12 or 15 years ago when I pulled up to a birthday party on a motorcycle and he just casually mentioned it. Had no idea. My mother said, yeah, he did that. So there you go. Started trading around motorcycles. Got an Indian Trail 50 or 80, maybe 100 from a neighbor kid who ran it into a tree, got scared of it, didn't want to ride it anymore. Ended up trading him, I think, a tree house I had built in the woods or something. I don't know. Kept it down at his house because I still wasn't allowed to have a motorcycle. Rode it until it was in just about shambles. Ended up trading it for something else, I think a Kawasaki. Went back and forth trading motorcycles, little dirt bikes with friends around the neighborhood. At the same time, I was spending summers with my grandparents, probably for about a month at a time in Alabama. A couple of houses down was a family that had a small engine and motorcycle repair shop. Had a shop attached to their house, had tons of motorcycles, 2-strokes, 4-strokes, inboard motors, outboard motors for boats, everything you could think of. They were nice enough to let me hang around, let me ask questions, let me go get them a beer out of the fridge, let me hand them a wrench, move this, move that. It was really great. Only later did I find out that that gentleman was the president of a very large 1% motorcycle club, outlaw motorcycle club in Alabama at the time. Always wondered why those big kind of burly guys with tattoos, long beards and vests would come around and hang out and drink beer and talk about being in different situations. Man, that was a learning experience. That was great. So back to motorcycles. I started probably around middle school, trading out more and more bikes. Got into high school, owned my first road bike, a Honda CB450. Rode it around for a while, ended up trading it for a Honda CB750. Rode that all the way until I went to college. In college, down in Savannah, Georgia, I ended up buying a 1966 Harley Sportster. One of the guys at the local tattoo shop introduced me to Harleys. Never had really been a Harley guy up until that point. He had a couple of buddies that rode them. They helped me keep it running. Rode that bike all the way through college. At the same time, I started playing in bands and touring pretty heavily. So about early 90s, really got away from motorcycles. Just didn't have a place to keep them. Didn't have time to do the maintenance and ride them anymore. So stopped really being into motorcycles at that time. Moved back to Atlanta in 92, still playing in bands but wasn't touring as much. Ended up getting married. No motorcycles, vintage cars. The way I could justify that is, well, we have a modern car, we can get the family around in, but wouldn't it be really cool if we were a family with vintage car, drive around, look cool in? Great. Started owning a lot of different kinds of vintage cars, Chevys, Fords, everything you could think of. No motorcycles still. Would still go out and ride with some friends who had an extra bike, let me mess around, but never really owned a bike until about 2000. Moved to Nashville, ended up getting divorced, bought a BSA. Man, vintage motorcycles. This was something new to me. Didn't know at the time what I'd owned. Back then was vintage, but this is not the same. So bought my BSA, rode it around till it just wouldn't run anymore, parked it in a garage and bought a Triumph. Was lucky enough to meet a guy who helped me keep them running and repair them and put them back on the road. So I rode my Triumph and my BSA around a lot. At this time, I'd stopped touring altogether, stopped playing in bands altogether, and got involved in the business I'm in now. Met a guy who I worked with, Tony Reed. You'll meet him later in the series, I'm sure. He was racing vintage motorcycles. Man, I thought that was cool. He would describe it to me, show me pictures, got online, looked at a couple of videos, even back then that people were posting. Thought, man, that looks like a lot of fun. Hadn't been on a dirt bike in years, but for some reason got in my head that I was going to go down and race vintage motorcycles. So ended up buying the Bultaco, 1972 Bultaco Persang 250 dirt bike. Let me tell you something, if you haven't been on a vintage dirt bike, it's nothing like riding a modern dirt bike and thinking you're going to get on one and go racing just out of the blue for a weekend. That is it'll change your mind pretty quick when you get off the thing. But anyway, went down to Barber Motorsports Museum for their huge celebration they have every year in October, Vintage Motorcycle Days, and raced vintage motocross. Man, that was a blast. Got to hang around, meet people, drink some really good beer, drink some not so good beer, eat great food, socialize, and just soak up that atmosphere of folks who really were into vintage motorcycle racing. So that leads me to the organization that I choose to race with. I choose to race with AHRMA, AHRMA, American Historic Racing Motorcycle Association. They're a member-owned nonprofit group dedicated to historic motorcycle racing. If you go to the web, the World Wide Interwebs, www.arma.org, you'll be able to see everything they're about. You'll also be able to pick up a copy of their handbook. This tells you everything you need to know about AHRMA. It talks about all the disciplines they race. It talks about all the classes within those disciplines, the bikes that are eligible, the things you can do to modify and customize and replace on the bikes. It tells you everything you need to know, the rules, regulations, everything about it. It tells you right here in the book. I think they have it available in PDF format. If not, they'll probably send you one. If not, contact me. I'll figure out a way to get you a copy of it. But it's really interesting. We'll tell you everything you need to know about AHRMA. A little bit from my experience with AHRMA. I'm going to link a couple of videos down below. One of them just is a little video, short video about road racing. The second one is a video produced by Dime City Cycles, a little series they did, and one of them is about AHRMA and features my buddy Kevin Burns, who's an AHRMA trustee. And what he says in the video really is true. AHRMA is like a big family. And like he says, people throw that word around a lot, but really, AHRMA is like a big family. You get to know people, you get to care about people, you get to understand the different backgrounds of people who come in and racing. And you really understand, and it's happened to me on the track before, that these people are your friends, not only in vintage motorcycling, but also in competition. Now, there is a very healthy spirit of competition in AHRMA, but I've never seen anybody be malicious. I've never seen anybody be angry. These are the first people, the people you line up to race against, who are beside you. If you have a problem, if you have a broken bike, if you have a part that's malfunctioning, they're the first one to say, hey man, I got one over in the truck, come over, let's fix it, let's get you back out there and let's get you racing. It really is a great group of folks. And like I say, if you come out, try to look on the website, come out to a race, ask questions. The wealth of information and knowledge that these people have about vintage motorcycles, about racing them, setting them up to race, how to get into them, all that stuff, the sights, sounds, the smells, everything about it is just intriguing, and I think you'll really be interested in it with the folks from AHRMA. Like I said, go on the website, find a race near you. They have them all across the country. Go out and watch one, and like I say, just get to know and talk to people about it. It really is a great time and a great organization. We have racers. I think the earliest you can race when you're with AHRMA is about 18. We have racers, I think we have a couple of guys in their 80s. I'm looking at you, I know who you are, and they are still incredibly fast, whether it's on the track or in the woods. Pretty impressive to watch these guys on vintage motorcycles. Still gives me hope that maybe I'll be actually able to ride one the right way one day. So that's it for this video. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, so you'll know when I'm putting out a new video. I must apologize. I was going to put this video out yesterday, but lo and behold, I actually worked on motorcycles. Trust me, there's nobody more shocked and surprised than me that I actually worked on motorcycles, so I didn't get a chance to do it, and for that I apologize. I'm going to try to do a video every 2 weeks. I think next week we're going to talk mainly about vintage road racing. The one after that will be about vintage off-road racing and everything that comes with those things. Once again, follow us on Facebook. I'm the Human Tornado, Stuart Sanders. Instagram, the Human Tornado, and Nashville Racers. Follow us there too. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, give me a comment down below. Tell me what I missed, what I messed up, and I'll try to address it in the next video. Thanks again for coming to hang out. I appreciate it. Have a good day.